Hello everyone, so I'm sure everybody's sick and tired of listening to it, and to be totally honest I am. But it is important too to talk about it. It is really, really important. Because it's important for democracy. I hear it all the time, that word democracy. But what does it really mean, I suppose? And the same with Micheál Martin asked about fettin. What does fettin actually mean? But yeah, we all know what fettin actually means and stuff like that. But yes, the Dáil speaking rights. It is important because let's be fair. You either sit in the government or you sit in the opposition. You can't sit in both. It's the same as a football team. Take for example, there was a game tomorrow between Cavan and Monaghan, and I put on the two jerseys. I put on the Cavan jersey. Imagine the Cavan person put on a Monaghan jersey, but I put the Cavan jersey on, then put the Monaghan jersey on, and I played in the both teams. And whichever team won, I took the glory anyway. Like you can't do that. Like let's put it that way. But it's different with the Dáil speaking rights, of course, in the Parliament and stuff like that. But what I'm trying to say is it's all to do with Michael Lowry. Michael Lowry has something on Micheál Martin or something on some of them of Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael. Because again, let's be fair, he's pretty much Fine Gael. He's pretty much up the government's hole. He's always been up the government's hole. And to be totally honest, it's an indictment of the Irish people why we voted, why the people of his constituency voted Michael Lowry back in. Because he is a crook, there's no doubt about it. He probably should be in prison. The same as majority of them in the Dáil probably should be locked up for a few years. Because none of them are any addition in regards to what they're doing. Because at the end of the day, the Dáil speaking rights, just going back to this, is for the last nearly 100 years Dáil has met. Since the first Dáil, probably since the third Dáil when the speaking rights were kind of arranged. Because the first Dáil was outlawed by the British and obviously was about securing Ireland's independence, and the second Dáil was more about enshrining Ireland's independence, etc., etc. And then the third Dáil obviously was more formal and stuff like that in terms of the organisation of the Dáil and stuff. But since pretty much that, since probably the 1930s or so, it's been pretty much set in stone, the Dáil rules, that the speaking rights, that a TD can only sit in the government benches or the opposition, they can't sit in both. And that's worked for the last 100 years, so I wouldn't mind if there was an issue with that, but for literally the last 100 years there never was an issue. And we see this nowadays, and the reason why the government want to change it, and it's clear and simple, because they don't want accountability, they don't want to be asked tough questions, they're afraid of being asked very tough questions on immigration and stuff like that. They don't want to answer, they don't want to hear it. Simple that they're too afraid to hear it, they're terrified. But a lot of them in the Dáil wouldn't ask them a tough question on immigration or anything if their life depended on it. But God forbid if I ever got into, I'd be going with it very soon, but I say if I did. But yeah, what backbenchers, government backbenchers, take for example Willie O'Deed. Willie O'Deed has to ask me hard questions and stuff like that about the hate speech bill, take for example, but trying to shut people up, which is what they're trying to do probably too in this state, because this state is becoming literally North Korea at this stage, because we see this authoritarian move towards with the hate speech bill, with other bills too they're trying to bring in. And not to mention the protests outside Dail yesterday. They pretty much broke up peaceful protesters who were protesting the war in Gaza. Whatever you may take about the war in Gaza or into that, but they're still entitled to the protests. Young women mainly, along with a few elderly women. They were strip searched and stuff by members on Galder Street and Connor. All because they stood outside the gates of Dail. Questions need to be asked there, but that's a different story, I suppose. We'll talk about that later on. But what I'm trying to say is the state is becoming higher in its own power, and it's trying to oppress people, and that's what's happening here in this country. Unfortunately, at the moment in time, we see that people's liberties, people's rights have been trampled on, and we see this in the Dáil. They don't want to address it. The country's in a hard mess. Every regard, we could go on for an hour. The list, the messes people are in, citizens that are suffering, our citizens are going through on a daily basis, and they're too busy worrying about let's give Willie O'Deed and a few of the government backbenchers, more speaking times where they can ask us, say we're the greatest people ever, Micheál Martin. Because again, let's be fair, Willie O'Deed would be like to Micheál Martin, or me whole, only for you, Ireland would be lost. And me whole, you're the best person ever. Let's be fair, he's not going to ask them tough questions about the World Economic Forum, about different other things that we cannot discuss in open society, in free society. He's not going to do it. Let's put it straight. What about independence? Or maybe even a few other powers. Sinn Féin, you couldn't rely on them to ask a tough question if their life depended on it. But, independence, whatever a few independents could ask a tough question. But again, the government backbenchers won't do it. They won't do it. Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael backbenchers won't do it. They'll be too afraid. They'll be utterly terrified of losing their seat and losing their big job in Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael. They couldn't do it. None of them have any balls to ask any tough questions. Like if I was in Fianna Fáil again, I would be got rid of long ago, because I couldn't just sit there and listen to waffle and bullshitting and selling people down the river, and that's what's happening in this state. But that's what it is, and we have to call it out. But it needs to be addressed. But there's many other issues at the moment in the country, and I'm sure we'd agree. The war, the tariffs coming from Donald Trump, we won't know exactly the details, haven't emerged as I'm making this video, but could have huge implications. Could be small implications, but most likely be very severe implications on the Irish economy for a certain period of time. We don't know for how long, but will certainly have implications, not to mention house and homelessness. We could write the book. We could generally write the book, unfortunately, with the amount of issues and the amount of pain our citizens are going through. And why these people in Dail get paid thousands to shout around the Dáil and do fuck all and achieve nothing, because nothing has changed. Well, the elections were in November. We're still here today. People still suffer. Nobody's getting appointments quicker for HSE. Nobody's feeling safer on the street. The list goes on. No young people are buying any extra houses. There's no extra growth in the population in terms of the natural growth, in terms of people having children. There's none of that. Nothing has changed. Pretty much same old, what I'm trying to say. Nothing has changed. The only thing that's happened is landlords are getting a bit more wealthier. The TDs are getting a big of a pay rise, and that's about it. The people owning the direct provision sectors are getting more money. That's it. They're the only people that's really getting any benefit from this. But it needs to be addressed again as just the last point to make. That it is utterly stupid. For the last 100 years it was never changed. And now they want to change it. But again, this is just what the government is. And again, we only have ourselves to blame, because people shouldn't have voted. And again, I know we live in democracy. People were hoodwinked, pretty much, and bribed really to vote Fianna Fáil again, because they were said, oh, we give you all this money. Here's money. Here's, take the money. Big rise in social welfare, big rise in job seekers, big rise in pensions, just because they wanted a few votes. And that was it. We see no money now coming towards people for storm damage, for, we see now the cost of living. They won't give any more money for the cost of living. It was all because the election was a giveaway election, pretty much, to try and get people's votes, bribe people to vote for them. And sadly to say, people did vote for Fianna Fáil because they were given money and they were given a few bob, and that's what was more to them than the country and their futures. The one-time payment, let's put it that way. Then, they were too busy focused on the short term than when they should be focused on the long term. And thankfully I didn't fall for that. I'm sure many citizens didn't fall for it. That Fianna Fáil were hoodwinking people and trying to mislead people and trying to deviate people. But again, this is all what it is. It's all about control and divide. And that's what it is. Let me know what you take. Subscribe for more, and bye.